Call this meeting to order, meeting of Board of Education work session, meeting which occurs in public. First item we have is to approve the agenda. So I need a motion to approve, please.
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Burgess.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ransom. All in favor, please raise your hands. Passes 5-0. Next on the agenda, Superintendents Report, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, board members. It's a busy time. You may recognize that our principals are not here tonight. We had meet the teacher today, so we gave them the evening off as they continue to prepare for our students' return on Wednesday. We've been conducting pre-planning and district-wide meetings of various varieties throughout last week, and today was a great day. Had an opportunity to get to several schools, as many of the district staff did as well. Lots of smiling parents and happy kids as we get ready to go back to school and get back into a routine, which I know we all thrive in, at least at my house. So we look forward to welcoming nearly, I think we're going to be close to 8,500 students when you include pre-K, which is about a 3% growth if everyone on the books shows up, which is typically what happens. So we look forward to welcoming those students and all the staff back that assist that. I want to take a minute to thank our operations staff, our custodians, our maintenance workers, our directors that lead that. See Dwayne and Steve back there in terms of preparation for the school year. As you know, I compare it to having a party. There's lots of work ahead of time. There's lots of work after. And there's lots of work in the beginning as you throw it. But we are excited to be welcoming folks back, and lots of good work's taking place this summer and throughout the course of the year to prepare for these students' successful return, including in our human resources area where we've hired lots of different folks. I want to take a minute to welcome our newest director, Justin Kofer, Director of Human Resources, is with us tonight. Justin is joining us from Henry County and is replacing Donna, who's retired, as you know. And so we thank Donna Kane for her outstanding over 8 years, or about 8 years of service, and we were able to honor her last week. And so welcome, Justin. We look forward to working with you as well. And that will conclude the superintendent's report. Unless there are questions.
Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is presentations and discussions, and first is teaching and learning report.
Dr. Buck is out tonight, so we've got capable hands of Ms. Adams, who's going to help, and maybe a few other staff members.
Good evening. The August 2021 Teaching and Learning Report contains 3 items of information and no action items. The first item of information is an update on Innovation Oconee. We recently hosted the 2nd annual Back to School Summer Summit. Last year, this was a virtual event, and this year, Innovation Oconee was held in person at North Oconee High School. Adam Hammond, an OCS alumni, provided a keynote address welcoming our teachers back to school. 25 OCS teachers and 3 RESIS staff presented sessions throughout the day, and we had a fantastic turnout, and we had some good feedback, very positive feedback from our participants. The sessions were also recorded so that we can extend this professional learning opportunity to teachers that were not available to attend in person. I invite you to take a look at a few of the pictures included in the Teaching and Learning Report. Ms. O, if you will please scroll through some of these pictures. Okay. The second item of information is an update on the proposed math standards. The Georgia State Board of Education approved the posting of the new K-12 math standards at the July State Board meeting. The standards are currently posted for a 30-day public comment period. If approved, the standards will be implemented in the 2022-23 school year, following a year of teacher training. OCS held professional learning on the new standards this past Friday for all K-12 math teachers. We will continue to provide professional learning and work on revision to curriculum documents this school year in preparation for the implementation of the standards in 22-23. Gonna turn it over to Dr. Steitzel.
Good evening, board members. The third item of information is an update on the 2021 advanced placement scores. I am pleased to report that OCS students performed exceptionally well on the recent AP exams. 86% of AP students scored a 3 or higher on at least one AP exam. This pass rate increased from 82% last year and from 83% in 2019. OCS had 938 students that took at least one AP exam. I commend Oconee County High School and North Oconee High School for these outstanding results. And that concludes my report unless there are any questions.
How many times have the math standards changed in the last few years? You know that answer.
Too many.
That's a good answer.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
On the math standards, can you just give me a layman's understanding of what these new standards attempt to do or design to do or the impact they'll have?
So the standards, there's really minor changes to the overall sequence, but they're supposed to be more user friendly. So they've unpacked them for us. So before when we've had a standards release, we've had to go in and unpack and determine exactly what does this mean that we're supposed to be teaching. And with the new standards, that's all been done for us. So it is supposed to be more user friendly for teachers.
Is it going to change materially the instruction that the teachers themselves are doing on the different math courses throughout the?
It changes the order slightly in some areas, but not for the most part.
Okay.
When we looked at it Friday with 612 teachers, some of our high school teachers, once we really looked at things, felt comfortable in that with some of the support we were getting from RISA, that a lot of our work would be laid out for us and pretty easily done.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Texas operations.
Good evening, everybody. The Oconee County Schools Operation Division August Board of Education report contains 2 items of information and 1 action item for the August 9, 2021 Board of Education meeting. As Dr. Brandt said earlier about the guys in the back, Steve and Dwayne, every month I get up here and talk about the energy report, and this is the work of Steve and his team of how we do that, and I'm very, very thankful to have him. And this goes to show the June energy report. It shows a trend decrease in over May, and that just goes to show you what they do each month. We'll turn it over to Fred Ferguson, our Director of Facilities, for our construction update, and then do the action item now.
Good evening. We've been busy working out at Collin Ferry. The project at this time is on schedule. They have completed the detention pond. We're working to connect the domestic water line to the city's main, and we're also begun work to relocate the sanitary sewer line that's in the way of the building pad. So that's underway now, and once that sanitary sewer line is complete, in about 2 weeks we'll be prepared to start pouring footings for the building. Out of High Shoals, you may have noticed or heard, we've got some work going on out there. We're actually working in the adjacent lot to the west of the school to prepare a play field and a soccer field and track, so that when we start the building addition, which will be on the existing play field, there will be a play field for the use of the students once we begin construction. So that's underway and going really well. Does anybody have any questions?
What's based on the RFP for High Shoals? When would you hope or expect for that project to actually start construction, and what's the timeline for completion?
Yes, the RFP for households, we're gonna advertise it on August the 10th. We expect proposals in on September the 9th. And once we go through board approval, it'll be late October before they get a notice to proceed. So we're expecting construction to begin somewhere around November.
Start around the 1st of November and complete when?
Next July.
Okay, so by the time school starts back next year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
I've got one more, so I've got an action item in there. We have the one action item for operations, and that's to do with surplus vehicles. This is superintendent's recommendation. That's for the Board of Education to approve the following surplus vehicles, and it's 5 of our older buses. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Human Resources.
Sir. Thank you. Good evening, members of Dr. Branch. Got 2 items of information for you this evening from Human Resources. And first, board members, I just wanted to update you again on hiring for this new school year. Last time we met, I informed you at that point that we had 80 new hires, and we are bringing you 21 recommendations tonight. So if they meet with your approval, that will mean that we've hired 101 new employees for this coming school year, which just give you an idea in comparison, we hired 80 for last school year and 109 the year before. That includes 45 new teachers, and I will be bringing you some more specifics on those folks next month. Also, we'll be bringing you some more specifics on our growth that I can report to you, as Dr. Branch alluded to earlier, that we are growing. And we anticipate as of today, our enrollment K through 12 sits at just a little over 8450. So if you added to that the pre-K, we could crest 8,500. Again, assuming everybody shows up for the party, but Dr. Branch said, and judging by today, it would appear that they plan on doing that. So we're prepared for them, and we're excited about the new school year that's ahead. One of the things that just brings me great joy, in fact, I would tell you by way of growth, one other thing is that we have hired, or we have added, because of growth this summer, 5 additional teaching positions. So we're growing. And one of the things that's just very gratifying to report to you is of those 101 that I mentioned, 15 of those are graduates of Oconee County Schools. So roughly 15% across the board of the employees that we are hiring are homegrown, which we love. The other item of information, again, very glad to report to you that our Teacher of the Year selection process will return this year to what we're all accustomed to, and in 3 weeks' time, we will start that process with our local schools beginning to select their Teachers of the Year. We'll go through our typical process and then mark your calendars for Thursday, September the 30th, where we plan our Teacher of the Year banquet at the Oconee County Civic Center. Look very forward to that once again. And that will conclude the Human Resources report unless you have any questions.
How many applications do we have this year?
Mr. Odom, I will tell you that beginning the hiring season, we had 1,407 teaching applications. We hired 3.19% of those for our teachers. And that varies from level to level.
So it's pretty competitive.
Very competitive, yes, sir.
That's what I told people.
Yes,
Of those 101, you said 45 were teachers.
yes.
How many of those 45 were replacements versus how many of those 45 were new staffing positions added because of growth?
Of those 45, 25 are replacement and 20 are new.
Okay. So 20 brand new teaching positions that we didn't have this time last year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you all again for your support throughout this whole process. And appreciate the support of all of our leaders as well. Thank you.
Next is Student Services.
Good evening, everybody. Student Services Report contains 3 items of information and 3 action items for the August 10th Board of Education meeting. The first information item is the COVID-19 update. And board members, I need to make you aware, we received an administrative order from the Department of Public Health just before this meeting that allows students who are identified as close contacts to return to school as long as they are asymptomatic and remain asymptomatic through their quarantine or would-be quarantine period. We continue to communicate regularly with the Department of Public Health as well as Piedmont Athens Regional, and we'll continue to do that to implement that guidance while working with our staff in the coming days. Just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at, the 7-day moving average today in Oconee County is 8.3. On August 2nd of last year, it was 9.9, and that represents 116 cases in the month of July this year, compared to 288 cases in the month of July in 2020. The overall vaccination rate in Oconee County is 51% for fully vaccinated and 55% of residents that have at least one dose. Residents ages 15 to 19 have a 45.7% vaccination rate, and residents ages 12 to 14 have an 18.1% vaccination rate. The second item of information is school safety. I like to update you every year on where we are in terms of our school safety procedures, and we're still fortunate enough to have a wonderful relationship with the Oconee County Sheriff's Office as well as the Oconee County Emergency Management Agency. Our principals have regular contact with Lieutenant Mark Smith, who is our school liaison with the Sheriff's Office, and Dr. Branch, myself, and some members of our leadership team met with Sheriff Hale, Lieutenant Smith, and Chief Wasden, as we do regularly to discuss our school safety procedures. Some highlights about partnership include after-hours monitoring of our schools, outreach to our students, and safety training for our system staff, which we participated in last Friday. In order to prepare for emergencies, our schools each have an individualized emergency plan that is also approved by the Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management Agency. And they work with us each year to make sure those plans have what they need and on ways that we can improve them. We have twice yearly lockdown drills where we teach students and the Sheriff's Office works with us on how we should respond in the event of a threat that enters onto one of our campuses. We have twice yearly severe weather drills where students are taught how to shelter in place. And we have a fire drill monthly where students are taught how to evacuate campus in a safe and orderly way. We also have surveillance cameras in every one of our buildings, as well as on our school buses. We have security vestibules in place at each of our schools that include mechanisms that staff can lock and unlock doors that would give access to the student population. We have a badge system where teachers can move about the school as needed, and we can keep the building secure without restricting access to staff, but it does restrict access to visitors or people who aren't employed by us on campus. We utilize a visitor management system where you have to check in at the front office at that single access point, and that system scans for sex offenders when individuals enter our campus, as well as we're able to record specific notes about individuals if they're not supposed to have access to certain kids or what have you. We can record that, and it'll alert the staff when that person attempts to check in. And finally, we utilize a crisis alert system in our schools where all of our staff is able to alert district administration, school level administration, and the Sheriff's Office in the event that they have a threat on campus. And what that system does, again, is alert the entire campus, as well as law enforcement. And not only does it give them an alert, but it tells law enforcement where the person who activated the alert is at the school when they activate the alert. So they have that real-time information to help them in their response when coming to an event. We also had the opportunity this summer, as we have in years past, to host first responder training that's led by the Sheriff's Office, where our law enforcement personnel works with our first responders, fire, EMS, and they rehearse their response to an active attacker on one of our campuses. So in the event that we were to have a threat on campus, they actually come and drill what they would do. Specifically, each agency and some of our principals were able to actually participate in that drill. And I know they got a lot out of that experience, and we all learned a lot that day. So we're thankful for that partnership, and we look forward to continuing that with our law enforcement community here in Oconee County. The third item of information is Facilitron. We are now utilizing Facilitron to record our facilities use. So Facilitron is really going to help us when a community member wants to reserve a space in one of our schools. It allows them to see what is available for rental and facilitates that process for them so they can reserve, pay, everything they need to do is right there on one platform for them to do. It also allows district staff to track utilization and keep metrics on how our facilities are being used and when.
Now, that's for all users of all of our facilities?
Yes, sir. Got 3 action items, 2 field trips. One is the Malcolm Bridge Middle School field trip to Charlotte, North Carolina with their band and chorus. The second field trip is the Oconee Middle School field trip chorus to Orlando, Florida. The superintendent's recommendation is that those are approved at the August 10th meeting as presented. And finally, the third action item is our policy update, competitive interscholastic activities. And remember, we updated that to reflect changes in the law with regard to homeschool students. So that concludes the student services report, unless there's any questions.
The field trips, my form says May 2021. That should be 2022, I guess.
Yes, sir, I apologize. I'm spring.
Just want to make sure.
And can you explain that first thing that you mentioned about the returning back to school if they're asymptomatic?
Yes, ma'am. They issued a executive order today that basically said that the DPH would no longer be providing school guidance, that they recommend that schools familiarize themselves with the CDC guidance, and with regard to school level quarantines, students are able to return to school as long as they're asymptomatic if they were identified as a close contact, as long as the school system would allow them to.
So before their quarantine time would be up? I mean, how soon? I mean, just.
So if you were a close contact today and you were asymptomatic, they're saying you can return tomorrow as long as you remain asymptomatic.
And then on the Facilitron, how do people access that? And is there an approval process they have to go through?
Yes, ma'am. So the same link that we had on the website where they would request previously, we've replaced that link with a link to our storefront, so to speak, online for Facilitron. And there is an approval process. So as soon as one makes a request, the school personnel is able to see it and compare it with their schedule and make sure that they can host that event. And then they would approve it, and then we have district office approval as well.
Does the recreation department also use Facilitron?
Yes, ma'am.
So they would log on if they wanted to use one of our athletic facilities?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
That was back to the question Amy was asking about the asymptomatic students. We're still going to operate where public health is going to notify students who have been in close contact and are subject to a quarantine, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what
And
okay.
we'll be talking with DPH more because this is kind of hot off the press. So,
But this did change that process in terms of them taking on the responsibility for
that's correct.
identifying and notifying quarantined students. You're just saying now the new ad is if those students have been notified as quarantined, but they're asymptomatic, no tests required or anything, if they're just asymptomatic, then they can continue to return to school.
Yes, sir.
And it's, DPH is not controlling that, that's gonna be up to those students to define, to know that they're asymptomatic and not going to school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you, appreciate it. Moving on with the agenda, we have one action item tonight. Millage rate.
Yes, sir. You know that we've had several tax hearings, millage hearings, to hear from the public and have worked through the process. You have all the attachments for the budget calendar. And so we need to have action tonight to set the mill. We have Liz here if there are any questions, but we recommend that the board vote to adopt the FY22 millage rate of 16.5 mils.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation. Unless you have questions, do we have a motion to approve? We have a question.
You know, a board, as much as a point as anything, I want to make sure my understanding is correct, Liz. I was looking back at some of the information you and Sarah Ann gave us over this past budget cycle in preparation for tonight. And if my information is correct, our millage rate back in 2013 was 18.5, correct?
I don't have that information
Okay.
with me right
Well, I'm gonna
It has
I'm
been
gonna-
that.
I'm gonna refer from this page, and you can correct me later if you find that I'm wrong.
Sure.
But I suspect it was right because you guys gave it to us. Our millage rate was 18.5 in 2013. The very next year, we lowered it by 1 mil to 17.5. The very next year after that, 2015, board voted to lower it to 17. And it stayed at 17 until 2019, when again the board voted to lower it to 19.5, which we've operated last year, this fiscal year, and the proposal to operate for next fiscal year. So my point is, in 8 years, the Board of Education has lowered the millage rate by full 2 mils. That's not 0.02 mils that we've heard some discussion about in the last couple of months, but that's 2 full mils. And that's at the same time that Dr. Branch has told us just in his short period, we've grown by 2,000 students. Brooke told us tonight, we're going to be even higher than this, up to 8,500 going into this year. So over that period of time, or a little longer, we've lowered the millage rate by two full mills. We've grown by a high school and a third. We faced at least one significant level of state budget cuts, maybe 2, in that 8-year period, and continued to operate and maintain a school system that is the envy of a lot of people, and according to a lot of the emails that we've been reading the last week, are the reason everybody moved here and continues to move here. So I feel I have no regrets in the level of fiscal responsibility that the board over the last 8 years has shown in maintaining a quality school system, being fiscally prudent with our tax dollars, and still producing a quality product. So with that, it's just another reason why I feel comfortable that the millage rate that the staff has proposed is a proper millage rate, continues to support the investment that is necessary to maintain a quality school system, while at the same time showing a very sound, fiscally sound practice over at least the last 8 years or longer of being careful with those tax dollars. So that's just my 2 cents worth, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved, Mr. Burgess.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ransom. All in favor, please raise your hands. And that passes 5-0. We have a need to go into executive session tonight, so we do need a motion to approve.
I make a motion, the board adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on an affidavit that will be attached to the minutes.
Ms. Argo has made that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Parrish. All in favor, please raise your